The National Assembly has already missed the original deadline for passing the government's budget bill for next year. And the extended deadline is only a day away, with the two main parties still split on some of the main decisions on the budget. Now, this all comes as the world is facing an economic crisis with inflation and the war in Ukraine causing supply chain disruptions. And South Korea is no exception, with exposure to all these dangers to the nation's economy. So let's connect with Professor Yong-jin of Sogang Business School to see it from an economist's perspective. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Now, as I mentioned, there are a lot of dangers to the nation's economy at the moment. Is it time for the government to spend more or spend as little as possible?
Well, it is kind of a hard question to answer in a simple manner due to the economic situation we have here in Korea and global. The most important issue we have to deal with now is the control of the inflation and or stagflation. We are at the verge of stagflation. To control inflation, most governments have raised the interest rate and tighten the volume of the currency. In this situation, the government should not spend taxpayers' money a lot. Otherwise, the inflation will be exacerbated. But if we are in stagflation, it is tough to make decisions. Absolutely, the government does not want to spend money to control the price increase, but they have to support low-income families who suffer due to the low economic growth. While the price is going up, income is not increasing or even staying same in the individual level. Even in the company level, the sales volume is not growing and the profits are dwindling down. The government needs to support these companies with financial support packages or R&D support, which in turn push up the price. This is a dilemma. The only way to get out of this situation is to improve productivity and new technology development. To conclude, the government needs to spend as little as possible at the moment.
Okay. Now, spending is another issue, and there's another aspect to this budget, is the tax, right? How much the government is going to collect. The ruling bloc wants to lower the corporate tax rate, while the opposition bloc wants to keep the current rate. Again, looking purely from an economist's perspective, where are we right now? Why is there a debate over this from the two sides?
Right. As you mentioned, the ruling PPP argues that we need a corporate tax to support the suffering companies and promote investment in the midst of inflation or stagflation. While the main opposition DP argues that the tax cut is only for super rich when it is given to the companies with over 300 billion operation profit, and rather SMEs need to have 10% point tax cut. This difference, I guess, comes from the difference in the supporters of two parties. Both sides of this argument have pros and cons. The argument of ruling PPP is half right. The average corporate tax rate of the OECD is about 21%. This is, Korea's statutory corporate income tax rate is 25%. So it looks, a little bit high. However, when we put the GDP amount into the consideration, it is a different story. The countries that have higher GDP impose higher corporate tax. The UK recently announced that they would raise the corporate income tax rate next year from current 19% to 25%. President Joe Biden of the U.S. Promised that he would raise the corporate income tax from current 21% to 28%, although the plan is halted, for various reasons. Moreover, global companies do not move from one country to another due to the small gap, like 2 to 3% in corporate tax rate. When it is extremely low, they might move from one country to another. Also, one of the most important factors for their investment decision in foreign countries is the stability of regulatory system, not income tax rate. In the sense that the economic situation next year will be exacerbated further and low-income families will be suffering, DPs the opposition DP's proposal would make sense. Not like the big companies, to small businesses, including moms and pops stores, the tax cut will become their direct income to spend.
Right.
Considering the rate of their operating profit is only 2 to 5%, the tax cut will ease their financial burden. However, again, when SMEs in Korea have many types of preferences like tax exemptions and deductions, and the tax cut may have adverse effect. I mean, in Korea, there are about 48% of taxpayers who do not pay any money. And this kind of cut, for the low-income companies may cause more moral hazard or free riding.
Right. It is a complicated situation, but in a short way, where would you like to see government spend more to get out of the economic situation?
I believe, the most important thing Korean government need to think of is that the economic paradigm is changing. The digital transformation, ESG, environmental, social, and governance, this ESG management are the key driver for the paradigm changing. We are experiencing the huge changes in energy, mobility, manufacturing, and services. Considering Korean economy heavily relies on export, Korean government need to support companies to be prepared for being equipped with renewable energy systems, the development of environment-friendly product and services offerings, and ESG-friendly supply chains and ecosystems. The companies in the EU region will require exporters to check their supply chain ESG management, and companies in the US will require exporters to use 100% of renewable energies. If Korean companies cannot comply with the request, from importers in the US and the EU, they will left out from the supply chain.
Right.
These are
sorry, Professor. We're running out of time a little bit, but it is a good point. I think we've got your message in terms of the spending, and thank you so much for your insights, and I hope you have a great day, Professor.
All right. Thank you, for having me. Have a good one.